Welcome back to the Wolf of Queen Street podcast. Today on the episode, Sunz Singh, one of New Zealand's best strength and conditioning coaches, if not the best, has worked with the likes of Israel Adesanya, Sonny Bill Williams, Quade Cooper, the All-Whites, seniors, under-20s, Kai Kara France. If I had to keep going on, my page would be like 2 pages long of everyone that Sunz has as coached with and worked in with. And I thought I'd love to have you on the show to see, firstly, fellow South African come over to New Zealand, the hustle, the lifestyle, all the rest of it. And how has it taken from coming over like I've had and coming to a point now that you're becoming one of the best in your field that we spoke about off air, like your phone must have like the biggest OG boys around that you can call up and just go, hey, what's happening, and hang out with. But Sunz, welcome to the show.
No, thank you for having me. And I think persistence. I remember when we first connected on Instagram, and then when you asked very politely, and the South African part definitely twisted my arm. So that was an easy one for me. So I always love connecting with my people back home because we understand each other.
Yeah. We're on a different breed.
Yeah.
Where sometimes the rest of the world thinks we're assholes because we're over that different breed, right? It's how we come across. But it's funny because I think it's so true. Before we get into sort of your past, is about one of the biggest things with yourself, and it's true, your brand, is your integrity, your bluntness, and your openness, right? And I think that is some state very true to the South African upbringing. You have to, right? The bluntness, the openness, and the integrity going there, because if you don't take on one of those spaces, or you don't stand strong in those places, you get consumed or you get beaten down by society as we grow up, right? And that's why when you come over onto this side, the general public sees that as a bit more arrogance, arsehole, all the rest of it. But when you get into, sports and performance that you're doing and conditioning, and you start getting into these big boys, a lot of those big boys or girls, a lot of those people, what they want is someone just to tell them the truth, not fluff their ego anywhere else. I can imagine, the likes of Izzy or Sonny Bill and stuff like that, gods in their own right. They want someone to come to them straight up and go, this is the truth. I don't care who you what you are. And this is how, you go forward with it.
Yeah, no, 100%. When you're working at the upper level or the highest performers in, I guess, my industry, they know the truth, and they know a bullshitter from one that's not. So when we're there to sort of, solidify their thoughts, is what I call it, that's pretty much it. Like, okay, cool. That's what he wants us to do. Like, they don't want to be babied. They want feedback as raw as possible. I'd say the older athletes, yes, they love that rawness. Nowadays, you got to be a little bit careful.
Gentle.
Because people's feelings get hurt. But that does not stop me from being me. I will tell you exactly what I think. If you want me, and you want my coaching, you have to have all of me. And that's my bluntness, or me not beating around the bush and getting straight to the point. Because at high performance, we don't have much time. Time is very much limited, so we got to get to the job really quick, right? So if I got to tell you, oh, look, shut up, get out of here. That was not fucking good enough. We need to do this better. So I always say, do not attach emotions and feelings to feedback.
True.
The moment you do that, it's not personal.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I get time. I coach my boys 11. I've been coaching football and cricket. I gave up the cricket because he stepped away from it a year ago. But I've been coaching football 5 years. Never played the sport, right? So this is the funny thing. Never played the sport. Never understood. Been coaching for 5 years, and even as 11 or 12-year-olds, I still have it as if they're seniors. So I'm lucky that the same parents have been with me for 5 years, and they love it because their boys listen and because they get put on the spot. But when I get newbie parents coming along, I do get warned by the wife going, just be careful, because when the kid fails and you turn around and you call the kid a cabbage and it's horrible and you know what you're doing and don't do that crap or I'll chase you home, most parents aren't going to accept that for their little Timmy and Tom 11-year-old, right? Where my boys just are so used to it, they feed off it and it works for that environment.
The funny thing is, I've had this conversation on Saturday afternoon just before our football game that I work for Eastern Suburbs. And I was having a conversation when one of the players walked into the dressing room, and we're talking about coaches and young kids.
Hey everyone, sorry for the interruption. Just a quick shout out from our sponsors.
My name is Kenyon Clark and I'm the founder of the Duval Group. We are a large-scale property developer, and alongside our property development business, we also have our gym business based in Manukau and with new locations opening soon. We're passionate about serving our community, and we do that through the Duval Foundation, and I hope that we are able to be a voice of encouragement and inspiration for a whole new generation of entrepreneurs.
Let's get back to the show.
And we're listening to coaches on the sideline, and one's yelling and one's not. And we're like, it'd be so different when you have a parent that has no clue about sport versus a parent that played sport, been through it. That's normal. That's normal for them. Versus the parent that has no clue.
Yeah.
It's going to be like, oh my, this is bad. But really, they don't understand the dynamics of sport and the investment. And I guess everyone learns a little bit different. And through the coaching career, you understand interpersonal skills. You understand who you can drill, who you can't drill, what sort of tone you can use on this group versus that group. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to get the best out of them. You get the best out of them. Team performs well. That means you performing well as, you know. So as much as sometimes you want to just drill, we got to look at, okay, how can I get the best out of people?
Yep, totally.
So there's that fine line.
So let's just go back a little bit, right? Obviously, South Africa was raised in Durban, come over here at quite a young age, or you've been here a lot longer than I have.
Yeah.
So you served more of a life sentence in New Zealand than I have.
Yeah.
Talk me through sort of the upbringing that led you into this path, because I don't see South Africans jumping from that to wherever the world and coming to where you are now. Yeah. It's quite a unique path. I'd love to know how did it trigger? How did you find your place?
Yeah. So I came here when I was 17. So I spent 17 years in Durban, in Chatsworth. Not the best community for opportunities. Yeah. Low socioeconomic, and you're just dreamers. Yeah. A bunch of dreamers. I was heavily into sport. And I guess throughout South Africa, sport is quite big.
It's a way out to a lot of people, right?
100%. So that was me. I needed to get out through sport, or I needed to get an education. But that all got taken away, and I was like, I have to do both, because if one fails, I got a backup plan. I understood at a young age, not everybody makes it in sport. And it's just growing up in South Africa, it's survival of the fittest. Yeah. I think I was fairly good age group. So that was me good. My father was heavy into running, football and stuff, and he ran at a high level for South Africa, etc. So we're always involved in sport, or always aware of it. Always wanted to be a pro footballer or a runner. That was my thing. But I had to get an education. I was like, I had to go down the medical field or something, because that's where the money is. And I came from a very poor family. So there's weeks where I'm going fishing with my father every freaking day, and we're eating fish every day because there's nothing in the house. Yeah. I'm picking fruits off trees and selling it at the side of the road. This is at 12 years old and 11 years old. My sisters are like 1K down the road. They got a table with avocados, selling it there. My mother is cooking and sewing running singlets and going to running races and selling it there. The South African taxi ranks. Yeah. It's not a place to be. No. And you got your mother sitting there and selling stuff that she's sewing. So you've been through that from a young age. You're like, man, is this the life?
Is this life, right?
This is it. And I was happy. I was happy, but I'm like, watch TV and I'm like, man, what would it be like being on the sideline? What would it be like just going to the stadiums or kicking it with these pro athletes? It looks, because when you watch it on TV, it's such a trip. You're like, wow. Because we're in sport and we look up to these people and you're like, okay, cool. But then you see your community and you're like, oh, okay. I remember that kid's now 20. Oh, that kid's now 25. Oh, married, got kids, working in a mall in Edgar's or something, living life comfortably, happy, you'll die there. That's it. Like, there's that reality of things in you, but then there's that 1% like, surely there's a way out. Yeah. So you dream and carry on, and there was an opportunity for New Zealand, Australia, and Canada, and his brother was here, and he's like, oh, why don't you come for like a job opportunity? And spoke to one of the big, I think it was Fletcher or Hawkins, or one of them, this was 99, came over, he's a plasterer by trade, did that, and they offered him, hey, you can come over. So when I was born, my father and them used to put money away, like whatever they could afford, because when I finished school, they wanted me to study because they're like, you got to get the family out.
Yeah.
You know, like my sister's qualified for university, but couldn't afford to go to university to just go and work sort of thing. So we're like, okay, so I got to do this. So what they did was they cashed it up. I finished my standard 9 in South Africa. They cashed that policy up. That bought us tickets and a container. We put everything in it and shipped it over. So yeah, we came over here and then, played sport. The first year, went to Auckland Grammar. Biggest school I've seen in my life. I come from Chatsworth.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little Indian, coloured and black community where our schools are not the greatest.
Did you have a bit of issue with fitting in there? I can imagine.
Yes.
I can imagine you were still a bit of a. I can imagine you were still a bit of a thug.
Yeah, I was very hard, but I was also very scared. I was scared because of my lifestyle in South Africa.
Yeah.
I never went through too much of what the apartheid was. Yes, my father got beat the shit up for crossing the wrong road. We went to a place in Durban in Beach, and we getting told to leave because it's not for us. So I didn't go through too much of that, but I was around to those situations where, swimming in the beach and surfer comes purposely in there, and my sister's mother-in-law surfboard opened her up and is like, yeah, get you cunts out of here. And that's all. So we've been through a little bit of it, and I'm like, wow, okay, cool. So when I came here, it was not a hate or anything. No, I never did that. It's just like, I can't really speak to them. I know my place.
Yeah.
I'll just respect you. You respect me. So when I went to Auckland Grammar, I never really spoke to anyone for the first sort of week. One, I couldn't understand what they were saying because they didn't open their mouth. Words were coming out, and I'm like, what? I'm trying to read their lips, and I'm like, what's going on? So it was not scary because, like I say, I'm hard. Coming from South Africa and Durban, especially in my ears, I'm like, this is okay. But at the same time, I'm like, man, how do I fit in?
How do you fit in, right?
Yeah, because I don't know Kiwi, white, or anything. I just I don't speak the same language. I've never been exposed to the same things that they've been exposed to. And I'm not saying everyone has it easy. I'm just telling you what I had.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can't speak to you because we're not the same.
Yeah. Because that's how you brought up, right?
Right.
And that's what's pushed into you.
It's nobody else's fault.
Yeah.
So when I came there and I'm like, oh man, I just got to ask people. Automatically I get on the bus. The bus was full. I'll be sitting down. A white guy, white school kid, I get up and I give it to you. I got no problem with it.
Yeah.
I got no problem with it. I got up and I did it. And people, what are you doing? I go, have my seat. It's all good. Yeah. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I just did it. But I'm like, how do I form conversation with them? Because I've never done it in South Africa. But then I was like, this is different. Carried on, but never understood it. Didn't really like it for the first year. It was nice. It was nice, from my neighborhoods and stuff. So I just went through that year 12, sixth form, which is your second last year of school. Couldn't do year 13, seventh form, because my father had $75 in his account and he had to pay rent, food and stuff. And I knew at that time, I was grown at 11. So I knew, okay, I have to leave school. Yeah. So I couldn't go back because, one, something had to happen. My father had to go to work on the building, so I needed to go help him. So I just lied my way about, look, I can always get into university. My parents were not going to know anything because they knew you had to go finish school, go to university, study, go do this. Don't be like us. Yeah. But so I just said, I could get into university. I don't have to go do my last year. But I was only doing that because I knew I had to go help my father. So I did that, took the long route. Anyway, worked the building sites. I used to get $5 a day, just laboring. I still got the $5 note from 20 odd years ago. It was signed and said, hope you add many zeros to it. So I still have it. And then, just did that and eventually went to uni. Used to play football, so I've had bad injuries with my knee. I had 3 reconstructions, so nothing was going to happen for me because that was one of my routes to make it out. So I just went to university, and sports science started coming into the scene early 2000s. Applied for all of that and did it, and I said I always, because of my childhood thing, I want to be an athlete, and I didn't make it there, so
as close as possible.
Right, coaching, and I know what athletes need because I put my hand up and we never really got the help. So I said I could do this. And then, studied. And my last year of my university, I said, I'll open up a gym. Opened up a gym on the North Shore. Just wanted it performance-based. And, just teams started coming through, one athlete. And then, 10, 12, 15 years later, here we are. So,
Here we are.
yeah, it was a weird time coming over because, people from my neck of the world, we don't really get to my positions.
No.
And especially for Indian South African. I'm meant to be in accounting, IT, or something, I'm not meant to be in charge of helping these top class athletes.
Yep.
This whole stereotype stuff. So a lot of what I do as well pushes and drives because I want someone that looks like me that goes, if he can make it, I can make it.
Yep.
I want someone from my area to go, if he can make it, I can make it. I want someone from my country, anywhere. If he can make it, I can make it. I want someone from New Zealand go, okay, so he can make it. Because I got told, you're just going to be an overqualified personal trainer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, watch me. You don't know me. You don't know where I come from. You don't know what I've been through. You haven't. I haven't even touched the iceberg. So, so that's where it is.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It is so true. You coming out there and seeing from the other side, both myself, coming over and then having to fight because we were raised to fight. And I've spoken about this many times before, and that was sort of the main grips of when I went through my brain tumor and my surgery and hit my low point, I got offered my situation. I got so dark and deep hole. I got offered the door out of this world or keep fighting. And it was the South African upbringing of you fight for everything to keep me going, right? And to keep me going to where I am today and stuff. And then coming here and then finding place. And, that's amazing to see that. And it's, like I said, that's why there's always that real interesting one when New Zealanders see the South African work ethic. And it's just because a lot of the people in New Zealand don't understand that fear of getting up, the fear of actually having food on the table and the violence and all the rest of it. It literally just, it's literally like injected into you as a child and it just keeps pumping through. And it's hard to get rid of it, right?
No,
I can imagine it still happens now. And there's still days where I've got even my family or friends are like, dude, like just slow down. Like, cool. Cool. Like you got to remember where you are.
100%. Like in South Africa, you don't really have the help you have here.
Yeah.
Like you don't have a job. The government's helping you. I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I have a big problem with that because you're lazy. Go and get a job. There's plenty of jobs out there.
Yeah.
Stop making every excuse under the sun of why you can't get a job. It just comes down to you being lazy. Go get a job. It may not be the job you want, but temporary.
Yeah.
Start getting into habits of, I got to get up, got to go to work, I got to do my best today at that job, at that moment in my time. That will lead you to your next best moment. If you don't have a moment, what other moments are you working for? You're forever going to be there.
Yep. So
get up, stop being lazy, go get a job, stop waiting for people to help you because at the end of the day, you're the only person that can help yourself. So that's why I have a problem with it. Like, too many people are just waiting for handouts. Too many people don't really want to work. And I'm helping a lot of people. I help every freaking person under the sun. Like, there's so many people that I train that I take no money from because I know they got no money. There's people I give money to. I'm not going to name anybody, but people can't pay for comps. People can't send their kids to certain competitions. They'll message me. I will happily send me your bank account. I'll send the money. I don't want no mention about it. Right? So I help a lot of people because I know they're trying. I'm talking about the ones that are just happy to stay at home and complain.
Yeah.
So go get a job, get used to it, figure it out. And once you get in the habit of routine, okay, start branching yourself out. It doesn't have to be your permanent position. All right? That's just temporary. It's setting you up for the next moment. I mean, I could have used that excuse, the world's against me, but I pushed and I pushed and I pushed, I did what I have to do. I worked so many jobs before I did what I had to do. And I said, maybe 2 weeks ago, if I got released from whatever contracts, I'll happily go and tell you the spaghetti is in aisle 5, sir.
Yeah.
I'll be working there. You best believe it. got no problem. I got no problem doing anything.
So funny. Many years ago, I did the same. We took a year off to raise my daughter, and then sort of needed to keep myself mentally still strong. So I went and worked minimum wage jobs in retail. And then there was a situation in my career a couple of years later where I was in a turning point and unsure, and got to a point where I was a bit on the bench longer than I'd like. And I was literally a week away from going back to minimum wage and going back and doing the grind. And because, again, look, it's going to piss people off, but it's that upbringing of, hey, I can go and work. I'm not going to sit at home and say thank you. And I'd rather do that because there's that stepping stone from that, and to go through it. But I know with yourself, and like you say, the hard and grind. I want to get into a bit of the story of yourself and Izzy, especially now that at the time of recording, we're a couple of weeks obviously after Whitaker and Dricus, and I'd love to get your thoughts on that. But I know you've got a really cool story of you and Izzy and his path from sort of like 2014 onwards, and then sitting in Australia and watching him and the Spider, right? So talk me through how you and Izzy met and how that grew.
So, like I mentioned earlier, the gym that I opened in 2013, and we have a mutual friend, and he'd come and watch us play like seven-a-side football in summer, and we met and we all became friends. And we used to go watch UFC in bars, my house, his house.
He was in UFC at this moment, right?
2014,
so he was still kickboxing, right?
Kickboxing, NZ, China, wherever it is. So we'd watch it in local bars, other friends' houses, my house, and we just watch UFC. And he eventually said, end of 2013, I can work with you, because they had someone that helped them and he knew what I was about. So start of 2014, he came through and we just started working. And
But you had to get yourself validated by Eugene, right? By Euge, right?
Yeah, I guess, Izzy went and spoke to Eugene and was like, hey, I'm going to be working with Sunz. And like, he would have went and spoke like, I train all these athletes and sports science degree, etc. Like, I'm not just some random person pulling out stuff from my hat. Yeah. So
because I played rugby for 2 years with Eugene many years ago. So I haven't seen him since those days. He used to play out in Massey. So he played flank and I was in the front row. We were part of the Massey Mafia tribe many years ago. And the funny thing is, you see Eugene, you don't think much of him, right? I mean, he's an MMA fighter himself, obviously broke his leg, I think the last fight he ever did. But in the team, we were well versed that this man would fucking kill you in a split second. So we were obviously the Massey team, so we are known more of the Wild West. We'll play the North Shore teams, which are of a different color of race, naturally. So there's usually a big fight. And the funniest things that would always happen is guys would grab, let's say there would be a big biff, someone would grab Eugene, and us Massey boys wouldn't hold Eugene back. We would hold the other guy back and go, dude, you don't want to do that. You don't know who this guy is and what he can do. And because we knew that if Eugene got let loose, he would just fucking destroy. And it was funny because I always think back, because then he was talking about that he had a kickboxing gym. He had CKB, obviously top of town, and I was working bottom of town. And I was for a while I wanted to go and join him, but I had to walk from literally bottom of like Key Street all the way up if I ever wanted to use it. And I was just like, nah. I got into boxing in a different place, and because my dad grew up being a kickboxing world champ. So I had that in me to go, I should have joined. And then I look, and then you blink, and then holy shit. Big time. No. It's like, okay, how do I ever go back and say hi to Eugene, right?
100%. So that was it. And we just trained, carried on, pushed on. We started doing really well. And like, I'm not going to take credit for why he did well. I was just the 1% of the puzzle. I always say I'm just that curtain guy that pulls the string on the curtains. I'm not the one that's there for the photo in the front. I know my job. So we did that. Developed and continued and continued and continued. And the UFC at that time, Izzy was making traction, got into it. And one fight to the next fight to the next fight. Got to the title, defended the title 5 or 6 times. And that was it. And then now he works with AB, which was my athlete as well. I used to coach him, and he was my student. I used to supervise him. So I know he's in good hands. So that's good. And because my life is so busy at the moment. So that's good that he's still there. So it just developed in that way that like I'm very transparent. Like he knew what he was getting with me.
Yep.
I knew what I was getting with everybody else, and we just clicked because we vibed.
So let's talk about Izzy specifically, just because of the size and the magnitude. Now, I can imagine there's a lot of people wanting questions, right? So also you are one coach of many, correct, right? Obviously Eugene is the man, right? He's seen as the head coach or the head honcho.
Yeah.
But underneath Eugene at any one stage, whether it's Kai Kara-France, any of the boys out of the CKB, Shane Young and those guys, there's multiple layers of coaching beneath it, and you form part of this puzzle, right? Because I think a lot of times people think maybe there's one person and he runs it all, but there's so many people that actually form part of this puzzle. Yeah. How do you guys or girls all fit in to make sure, again, if you're using Izzy as the example, how do you make sure that you guys as the coaching panel are aligned to get Izzy the best? Because there might be something you want to do, but it might not necessarily align with another coach.
No, 100%. When Izzy got into the UFC, we met. And this was it. After he got into the UFC in the first fight, came back, we met in the Auckland Domain on the grandstand, me, Eugene, and Izzy. We sat there on the grandstand, and Eugene said, the guys in the UFC are just big. So all we need to do is get him strong. I said, yes, we don't need to get him big. Don't get it twisted. Yeah. You don't need to be big to be strong. Strong is strong. End of story. That's like my nephew who was, 52 kgs, pulling 210, way over 3 times body weight, benching. Like, I think he got the 130 in the gym, like he went to break the world record in his age group. So strong is strong. Don't get it twisted. And a lot of people get it twisted. You got to be big. That was the main thing. My message was just get him strong. So I knew my role.
Yep.
Get Izzy strong, we do our parts. I understand the science. I understand the weekly or the camp length. I know the load. I know what's going on. Yep. So I know how to adjust. At the end of the day, the fight training and all the disciplines, that's primary training. I am secondary.
Yep.
I'm there to support. So if at any 1 week I need to adjust my load so that he can make his other sessions at 100%, I will do that. I will not go, no, sorry, guys. You did 100% there. You can do 100% with me. Yeah, we can do that some weeks. But if you spent, my job as a sports scientist is to understand all of this and adjust it. One session that I adjust, I'm not going to lose anything. I'll gain more from you being fresh.
Yeah.
So that's how I do a lot of my coaching.
It's a lot more science than it was 20 years ago, right?
100%.
Yeah, it's a lot more analytical science. And I know you've spoken about before about it's a lot more tracking, right? And we're talking about off air that you've spoken about how this it's the training fatigue to training plus fatigue equals performance, right? Yeah. And understanding the upside of when I train, I naturally fatigue, but over time it actually becomes one, and then it actually increases the performance by hitting this fatigue. But if you take that as a linear path, if you've got multiple layers underneath, you've got to then take the training and the fatigue in each one of these linear paths as one, right? You can't keep them separate.
No. Nothing works separate.
Yeah.
Everything works together. Like, you move one thing on the equalizer, the next button has to move.
Yeah.
It's not individual. No. As soon as one moves, the other one has to follow suit. Figure out what's going on. So that's where I see, and I guess in my field from a sports science or an S&C, I think a lot of S&Cs are doing too much.
Yep.
And the problem is, not a problem. I understand they got to market themselves. And I understand they've got to make shit exciting for Instagram and all of that. But then all of their training is exciting training.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fucking useless.
Yeah.
They're throwing shit all over the place.
Because the boring stuff like stretching, which is so important, comes across as horrible on social media.
Oh, 100%. Oh, my Lord. Who wants to stretch? Who wants to mobilize? Nobody even wants to nowadays. Yeah. Nobody wants to just go and squat, deadlift, bench, and go home.
Yeah, the three power exercises, right?
They don't want to do that. What's the point? Brother, I am just training your muscles, not the action.
Yeah.
I will train some action that's going to relate and transfer to a fight, or how we summate, or how we generate force through a certain movement. But people are trying too many things, and I understand it. I used to do it when I first, I got to market myself.
Yeah.
All right? And but I caught myself quick. It probably took one poster. I was like, what the hell are you doing, Sunz? This is not you. So it became more like, let me educate. And because I want to help as many SNCs as I can.
Yep.
I'm not competing with them. I don't need to compete with you. I want to help you so that our field can get better.
Yeah.
If we create this massive army of unreal SNC coaches, imagine what kind of athletes we can create out of NZ, or if we work with international athletes. We can have weapons from this country if we just got everyone on the same page. So, yes, as much as you're all individual businesses and stuff, but if we create a strong field, because you must share information.
Yep.
Everyone wants like, it's my secret. I got this. It's no secret, brother. It's been out there for 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
You just added a twist now and making it look like it's something new.
And call it something different, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like a skull crusher for the triceps. So just, for your tricep extension. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good job. You know?
True. Many, many years ago, before I realized my path, I had that same sort of bad belief that I've got secrets, and if I share it, you're going to take my secrets and do with it. And going through my story and going through everything else, I had the realization, and Sunz, you'll know this exact same. You are you and I'm me, right? I can give you everything I know, and you can give me everything I know. I ain't going to become an SNC, and you're not going to come and sit on the side and become a podcaster, right? And as much as we'll get better at each other's roles, we'll never replace each other's roles. And you see that a lot. And I can imagine in the sporting scene, because there's that publicity and that ego and the supposed potential for money, guys hold on to it more. But it's, I can imagine a lot of what you're doing and why people come to you is because of what you are as an individual, not going, okay, go and bench. Now, everyone can go and bench, but it's what you add on top of that, right?
100%.
And I mean, for one of the big things like I've seen with yourself is you speak about you don't come to warm up. You should be warm mentally and with what you're thinking when you come to the warm up. So your mindset is you come to the first step already on the first step, not to get to the first step. And that's sort of just a subtle little change in the sense.
And one of the things that really pisses me off is if I see somebody turn up to a session and they look like life's against them.
Yeah.
It's a privilege to train. It's a privilege to play sport. Even local, under 15, under 9s, under 10, reserves. It's a privilege because I can tell you what, I was a kid one time wishing I could have played on that Saturday, but I had to go and try and get money. There's a lot of kids out there wish they could go and play. A lot of fathers and mothers wish they could go and play, but they got to go and work.
Yep.
They got to go do life. So when people turn up to training not ready,
pisses you off.
Oh, it pisses me off. It's go home, come back another time. Because I've always said, like, it's a two-way street. If your energy is not right, and if you come like that, I'll give you that energy. What you give me is what I'm going to give you back. It's ground reaction force. What you give the ground is what the ground will give you back. I'm the ground. Yeah. Ground yourself here. So that's it.
It's so funny. I remember my old man used to coach me sport. So I played baseball for many, many years, rep level, and even in New Zealand. So he was our under-16 coach. So we were 14, 15, some of us closer to 16 at that stage, obviously trying to figure out ourselves in life and trying to become men. And you can imagine, that sort of age, you fully understand that. And we were, again, a bit of a wild bunch of boys. We were the best, some of the best in the country. He took 4 of us to national level. So from one team, there's nine players on the field for baseball. At the SA 16s and SA 18s, 4 of the starting 9 came from our team. Okay. But we weren't. We didn't listen. We were just wild and unlistened. And I remember vividly, one of these kids came up. One of the 4 actually. One practice came up, and again, he wasn't there. He wasn't all in it and stuff. And I could see my dad. And it's funny, my dad implements a rule, and I do the same for my son, that when we're at practice, I'm coach. So my son calls me coach at practice, and I'm dad at home. So there's a full differentiation. So dad to me was coach when I was at baseball. So I could see the coach getting really annoyed with this kid. And finally, after a while, he turned around to me and he's like, oh, cool. You know, do you want to be here or don't? He goes, I can't be. He goes, I can't really, I'm not really vibing a coach. And we were in the team, we were in suburbia. So we all walked. We were all close enough to walk to the field. So my dad fundamentally just turned around and said, okay, cool, go home. Walk home. Go home, and when mom says and dad says, why aren't you at practice? You go, because I wasn't listening to coach and I didn't feel like it. Yeah. And the kid knew the beating, this 20, 30 years ago in South Africa, this shit happened. The beating he would have gotten from his parents if he walked into the house and said, coach sent me home because I was a listener or I don't want to be at practice. And straight away he was like, no, coach, it's fine. I'll get myself my focus into right. And I want to stay here. Don't send me home, right? And it was just getting that sort of focus at that point. The same with yourself.
The thing is, people fail to realize, and I don't know, like at the end of the day, we can say what we want and people may not like what we say because in today's world it's not right, but that's okay. That's your point of view. This is my point of view, but you represent your family. It reflects back on you. You know, and that's how it is. It's like when kids are a certain way, what's going on at home? You know, and we can get deep into it, but everyone wants to make everything so deep when it really is what it is. You know what I mean? Like I always say, you represent your friends represent you. So choose wisely who you keep in your circle. You know, and keep your circle small because you get found out. Everybody is very comfortable walking with 1,000 people, but they're not comfortable walking with 10. You'll get found out. You can hide in 1,000 people. You can get carried in 1,000 people. 10, you got to pull your own weight.
People don't realize how much work it is to stand next to one person and go down whatever path it is, right? You know, I've seen it over the few years, you know, through my sports career and me trying to play national level and rep level in the different sports, you know, being in this game and you've been coaching stuff. People, or I can imagine yourself, you know, you're at the echelons of the top level. Like everyone wants to walk next to Izzy. Everyone wants to be his BF. But they don't understand the grind, the 16 or 18 hours when it has to, the amount of work for the 5 minutes of Izzy chilling that it looks like it's cool on TV, right? The amount of work that goes into fight week. I mean, I'm a big Floyd Mayweather fan, always have been. Yeah, right? It's funny enough, yesterday I pulled out, I've got a Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather signed gloves and Conor McGregor signed gloves. So a friend of mine, so I pulled it all out of my man cave so my friend could see it. And people always were like, cool, I want to be, you know, I want to be him and have what he has. But when that dude was in fight camp, the amount... Like no one could stand next to him and keep up with him and don't understand what it takes to do that. So they want the benefits, but don't understand the negatives and the grind that needs to go with it.
And that's a problem. Like people will see the lifestyle now, and this is for Izzy, the top athletes, or they see me and they go, well, it's easy for you to sit there, Sunz, and say, go to work, do this. But you didn't see my 38 years that I was pushing.
Yeah.
You see now... Because we're all lucky to have these flash phones that have videos that we can watch of what everyone's doing. But you didn't see what I had to do.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't see that pile of dirt I had to get through to get to the top. So it's the same thing with the athletes. When you see that and you listen to them and you have people comment going, oh, well, it's easy for you to say when you're getting paid thousands and millions and stuff. But there was work put in.
It's so true. I mean, I was talking to my dad the weekend. Fun enough, we were talking about the purses from 290, right? So I went and found the website that did the purses because he was saying to me how much Dricus made and Robert. And you know, those guys are sort of, obviously Robert's up there. Dricus he's obviously going to get a title fight with Izzy. We'll get onto that in a sec. But then you go down the rest of the sheet and you go and see the prelims and the pre-prelims, and they 15 or 16K, right? Yeah. And you forget, again, I know we keep it on the fight game, but it plays a lot into the wider spectrum. There's the fighter, there's the head coach, there's the cut man, there's the S&C. He's likely got about a crew of 3 to 5 boys in the gym, in the camp with him. He pays, right? And he's doing what? A lot of the small guys would do 6-week camp, 6 or 8 weeks,
8 weeks,
sort of 6 to 8 weeks is coming. So he's carrying those guys for 8 weeks, and the payout is 16 grand, right?
And he's got a family,
and he's got a manager, likely, and he's got his accountant that steals his money, right? And he's got a family, so he literally ends up maybe putting like 2K in his pocket, but Yes, I want to have that because look at all they have, but they don't understand all of that shit. Like you said, all this dirt you've got to go through and the 1% that makes them top.
Yeah.
But where I take my hat off and where I have full respect, and since you were seeing this, when a guy comes to the gym going, I have that goal, I am going to fight for all money. But if I get there, that's where I want to be. But great. But I'm willing to crawl through shit to try and achieve it. And there's very few guys out there or girls that will come to it and go, I understand how hard it is. I understand my family's going to take a backseat. I understand how backwards I'm going to go and still willing to give it a go.
And that's the thing. I speak a lot about a priority scale. And that's where I go. There's a priority scale of, your top priorities go here, your least of the priorities go here, and then you split into a primary and secondary column. Your high priorities go into your primary column, your low priorities go into your secondary column. You've got to fulfill your primary column before you can move to secondary, which means if you haven't done steps 7, 8, 9, and 10, you cannot go and watch a movie with your friends.
Yep.
It's that simple. All right? In your primary column, you can then now rearrange your priorities, which one requires the most amount of attention to the least amount of tension.
Depending where you are, what you're doing right, and everything else.
And that thing constantly gets reshuffled. So all you got to do is, what's my goal? What's adding to my goal? What's going to get me closer to my goal? All right? Put all those steps, your daily routines, write down 2 columns, primary, secondary. Things that are directly influencing my goals go into primary. Secondary. All right? Sacrifice 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 1 year, 2 years. 5 years is nothing. 5 years goes like that. So people have a problem with the long game because we're in a Siri generation. Siri, can you tell me what this calculation is? Siri, can you do this? And Siri gets it done for you. Right? So nobody is willing to go and do that work. And that's the problem. And when it gets hard towards the deep end of camps, you find people. You find them out. And I'm always like, in football and all that, they provide a lot of things for players because they want to make it nice and it's a good environment. But I'm like, nah, take half the shit away from them. They need to work for it. Go buy your own stuff and bring it.
Understand it.
Yeah, we played at the same National League level, etc., with no change rooms sometimes in South Africa. The grounds, you turn up and there's toilets there, but you're changing outside under the tree.
Dude, I played top level club rugby. Like I said, I went back, got invited to Springbok 21 trials by Peter de Villiers, ex-Springbok coach. I was playing top level club rugby, right? Sort of one tier below the Blues and so forth. I went and played. I played for Tygerberg, which was a coloured club, and we played. There was a club called SK Warmers, which were a Muslim club. And in South Africa, the colours and the Muslims sometimes in Cape Town don't get along. I was the only white boy on the field. We walked out the tunnel at professional club level. We got paid, right? We were getting paid at club level. I was getting spat on. I was getting called names you want to know. Literally, like, my parents had to be kept on a corner somewhere away to be safe from what was going on. And this is the stuff that you had to get on. That is actually the game that partially half changed my career because I was playing hooker. First couple of scrums, guys throwing punches right in my face as I'm in the scrum. Stood up, ref says you're fine. I said, no, it's all right. Hits like my mom or hits like a woman or whatever. Some bitchy little call like that. And in the next scrum, the guy kicked my kneecap off. Right, literally like kneecap to the side, gone, and everything else. And that's the top level club scene being paid. Now imagine 3 tiers or 4 tiers down, or the socials or all the rest of it, and understand the grind, right? The guys that were playing there went from there to Province, Stormers, Springboks. That was it. That wasn't another 5 steps, and that's how close it was. No. And that's the shit you had to put up, with them.
100%. And that's why I say, like, I'm all good. Like, game day, you provide stuff, and I know this happens in a lot of sport. You have all your drinks in the change room, your bananas, you have everything made out for you to perform so well, but you're just ungrateful shits. And I'm like, I'm happy for that to all be there, but show you actually care, and I'm not saying it's everyone. When I see a few of these kids, I'm like, man, you are so privileged. You're just entitled. You feel like everybody owes you something. I
hate that shit.
So I'm always like so hard because of my upbringing and I had to work for everything. But the things you work for really hard last the longest. Anything you do temporary or anything you do fast, it goes quicker than you even got it. But they're too dumb and naive to understand that.
Yep.
Oh, I'm 21, I'm grown. No, you're stupid. You're not grown. You're going to be 40 and being like, oh, wow, I really was stupid.
Yeah.
Your life, 21 years old, growing up here in New Zealand versus the rest of the world is different. Even if I go far north or south Auckland, it's different. You know, I worked with First 15 De La Salle, I worked with First 15 Sacred Heart. Two different schools.
Schools, man. Yeah.
Two different respects. Two different fights.
Yeah.
You know, people are playing for two different
reasons and meanings.
Yeah, people can't come to training. I used to drill some of them until I realized, hey, Sunz, you understand what home could be like from those neighborhoods. Stop it. You used to be there.
Yeah.
And then I was like, because I got caught into this, like, you got to be there because I used to be the kid. I have to make training.
Yeah.
All right. But I understand sometimes you can't because you got to take care of shit at home. So it's different out there in South Auckland, North, wherever, all these low socioeconomic groups. Like, it's not easy. I know this for a fact. And I dealt with those schools. I dealt with plays in there. I go in and I help people in there. All right. So when I had the two schools, I'm like, man, if those kids just got that, how they'd apply themselves, or if these talented kids just applied themselves like that, if their fight was a little bit more hungry, like I went to the Under-20 World Cup, and you play countries that are playing for more than just, I've been to the Under-20 World Cup. Yay, good job. Yay. You know, you got people trying to get their families out of poverty.
Yeah.
If they don't make it, they're going back to a factory or something.
Boxing is one of those ones. I always loved the fight game. I grew up with my dad being kickboxing, like I said, kickboxing world champ. I always wanted to get into it. And my father said to me, as I did boxing late in my life. It could have been a partial reason of my brain tumor, but let's just leave it there. But he always said to me this weird thing as a kid, and I never appreciated it. He said, Lawrence, you are too privileged to be a boxer. And he goes, and I never understood it. And like, look, I had a good upbringing, but we didn't have a lush, crazy upbringing. But he said to me, you too privileged. And when I was old enough, he turned around and he says, wasn't that you were too privileged, like you had too much money or anything else? He goes, you weren't raised that if you didn't win today, there was no food on the table. If you didn't perform today, you couldn't buy clothes tomorrow or go to school tomorrow. He goes, that is the difference of being saying, and that's in the boxing game. You can see guys, and you go, and that's specifically. This was, I can imagine in the 90s. We're of the same age, so the 90s before the UFC game was there at all. And he said, like, you'll climb in the ring, and that guy will destroy you because to him, if he doesn't get through me, he doesn't eat for a week. His family doesn't eat for a week, or something doesn't happen, or kids don't go to school. And he goes, you have the drive, but you just don't. You're not ready to go to hell.
No, 100%. And like, I remember I used to, this was early 2000s, I was playing for North Shore United, and my father used to watch every training of mine. And one day I got into the high ace. We had a Roy Toyota high ace. And he goes, oh, shit training from you. Like, you should play chess or do something else if that's going to be your attitude. And I'm like, cool. And I was used to it. It's normal. I'm like, I knew I should, but I was like, yep, cool. I'll sort it out. So that's it. Like, just be honest, man. Like, it's not saying go and be mean or what you watch on the internet. Oh, this coach was drilling. Oh, I got to act in this manner. No, just be honest. Understand who you are. Understand who you're working with. Just be honest about everything. Like, that's not good enough, but I can show you what you need to do to be better. You can't just leave it at that's not good enough. You need some answers. You need some solutions to help. So
totally, man. Last thing I want to get on today, and obviously one of the big questions out there at the moment, let's talk Izzy Dricus. Right? So we are now, time of recording, about 2.5, 3 weeks after Whittaker-Dricus fight. Obviously, I followed every single Dricus's UFC fight. I can imagine you've done the same. You're still a passionate South African supporter. I know Saturday night for both of us was a hard night. To anyone out there watching for the Springboks and the All Blacks, before you say anything, fuck you. Don't even say anything. I accept that. I take it. One bonus. We won the second half. I'll take that. There we go. The South Africans won the second half. So, but anyway, let's go into thoughts on Dricus Whittaker fight. What's your thoughts on that one?
So I made a call before the fight that I won't be surprised if Dricus wins. I was picking Rob purely based on experience
Yeah.
and where he is in terms of the middleweight. But I said I will not be surprised if Dricus wins, because if he gets in and his style of fighting is very forward, Rob's going to have problems.
And it happened.
It happened. So, yeah, he's a big boy.
Dricus.
He's a big boy.
He looks a little bit leaner. He's taken a bit of the muscle band off. I mean, Dricus was always, his cardio was always of question because of the muscle band, right?
Yeah.
Being muscular in UFC or boxing is a bad idea, right? And that has cost him a lot of the other fights when he puffed out. But his power came through. He didn't puff out. I mean, it was only in the second round. But I've got an opinion I've got a thought for the Dricus Izzy fight when they do announce it, or the way I see certain things playing out. But I'd love to see what your thoughts are around it.
That's like, I won't say it's a tricky fight. It's interesting because I see Dricus as a Marvin Vettori. It's like such similar styles. Is Dricus gonna keep his style and press, or is he gonna change his style based on who he's fighting? Because he knows how calculated and skillful of a striker Izzy is. Now, if we go to boxing, Mayweather versus Canelo. I'm a Mayweather fan.
Canelo was amazing.
Right? And I was like, I might have to put money on Canelo because he might win.
Yeah.
He stepped in the ring and he changed his whole game plan because of the man standing in front of him.
Correct.
So the effect of Izzy might play a part, or knowing Dricus and knowing the South African mentality, I'm gonna do me. So that's where I see it. It's gonna come down to, does he keep his style of fighting, or does he change it based on, I've got to be calculated here because of the level of striker and ranginess of Izzy.
Yeah.
So that's how I see that fight, because we know the fight game can end in 10 seconds or
go the distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think, close up, I think Dricus has the power. Obviously, Izzy's got the speed and the reach, right? There's no denying that. And that's where Dricus says if he comes close up, he's going to take him. Whether he does or doesn't, but I think that's the play. Now, the question I have, and the logical things I'm saying is he going to go, cool, I'm going to keep my distance, use my range, use my legs, right? And play that strategy, work him down, and then finish him off. I'm assuming, again, it's make my call. I'm dude, as much as I've been around, all you guys that have been around the fighters, I have no insights on the rest of it. But I think that might be the bit of the play. Now, from the Dricus side, Dricus wants a brawl, because that's where I think he stands a chance. Now, the only way I see Dricus breaking Izzy to make the brawl, and this is where I've got to also think, Dricus is not as flamboyant on the camera yet, on the mic. He's just not that good yet. I think to make that happen, he's got to get a bit personal. I think he's got to get a bit more personal, and he's got to go down a rabbit hole that a lot of people necessarily don't want to go down, because then he might make Izzy want to fucking kill him, right? And therefore Izzy will stand in front of him and we go toe to toe, and that might give Dricus that opportunity. Because if he doesn't bring him in emotionally or somehow. I know Izzy's a big boy and he can handle it, but if he builds that up enough, he might be able to entice him to come in a little bit closer than he would, might give him opportunity.
I just think Dricus, from watching all, of course, his fight and post-fight interviews and press conferences, I just don't think it's in him. You know what I mean? Like the aggro or that type of person. Whether he needs to adopt it because that's the business side of it, I'd say any fighter needs to start figuring out how they sell fights. And it's part of the fight game. Boxing has been doing it for how many years?
Correct.
People, and not people directly involved with the fighter, but the fans on the keyboards and stuff, they get so invested into it when really it's just between the two guys and they're selling the fight, and whatever happens after, and they'll be fine. But it is what it is. It's a fight business. You've got to promote it. You've got to sell it. You've got to hype it up.
Someone's got to be a heel, right? Someone's got to be a heel, which means someone's got to be a bad guy.
There's a villain.
Right? Yeah.
And, exactly. So, I don't know if it's in him to do it just yet. Whether he realizes it, like, a lot of people, like you see, let's strip it all the way back to just my field, trainers. A lot of them were not really posting videos about their training or talking because they're like, oh, no, it's not me. It's so not me. And now everyone's slowly doing it because they realize it's the way to sell. So, yeah, how that plays, I don't know. But, yeah, it's going to be a interesting one the last probably 4 weeks leading into whenever that fight is. Because I don't know if Dricus will fight, because it's so short turnaround.
Yeah, you think in January, February maybe. So we're talking about a 296, 298, somewhere around there.
Something like that. So, yeah, whether he decides and someone goes, oh, look, you got to sell the fight and make it what it is.
But that's different to, so selling the fight is different to him doing it to get a reaction, right?
Yeah, like the mental game.
Yeah, the mental game. Because like I was saying is, I think if Dricus doesn't get Izzy close enough to him, Izzy will kill him. Izzy's going to kill anyone at range. And he's proven that. He's got the legs and the speed to take anyone range. He's got to bring him closer. And I think the only way... because Izzy's smart. Izzy's not going to go, cool, I'm going to stand in front of him because I'm going to show him.
Yeah, he's probably one of the smartest
guys, right? He's not going to show that I'm going to stuff you up in front of you. I think in the sense, and that's the only way that I've spoken to a few people, I said is Dricus turn around, whether he can or wants to, is to get a little bit personal to make it that Izzy wants to pound him in, like front to front, and like, then he might have an opportunity.
It's like you look at Paulo Costa and Yoel Romero, they changed their whole game.
Yeah.
It's like, whether he's going to change, I don't know. I'm going to call it the Izzy effect because him standing in front of you is a different thing versus what you see on TV. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting how that all plays out. Yeah.
Cool. So how are you going to call it? How are you going to call? What do you call the fight? What's your expectation? Put it on now. We're likely 6 months out from the actual fight.
From what Izzy said, you know how he said, I'm going to make him pay? I feel like Izzy wants to go all 5 rounds and just being technical. And just pick him. I'm purely going there. He goes, I will make him suffer sort of thing. So I'm like, oh, okay. If I was a fighter and I know my skill set, I'll use you for 5 rounds. I don't want to get you out of there. Yeah. I want to punish you for 5 rounds. So that's probably what I would do. If that's the case, I don't know. Like I say, that's not my side of the puzzle.
I'm sure you signed some NDAs that you can never say yeah or no on Izzy, right? Yeah, I could see you don't want to give an answer there, but that's cool. It's it's close enough. My gut feel is Dricus has to do something within 3 rounds. I think it goes past 3, he's done. Yeah. So no matter, even if it's a pick-up, I think once it's past 3, he won't have the legs against Izzy. He won't have the cardio to go, and I think so. I think there'll be a potential for, like we saw against Whitaker, if he has that opportunity and takes it within the first couple of rounds. But my gut feel is it should be a 70% every day of the week is he takes it using his range, the range. Yeah. If he comes in close, then it's 50-50 the way I feel it.
Yeah. No, it's fair.
It's fair. Yeah, it's fair. Nice deflection. Nice deflection. Oh, good. Sunz, as we end up the end of the show today, is there anything you want to leave our audience with? Just any sort of insight or anything else?
Anybody watching this, like, for me, it's challenge yourself. I'm a big believer on challenging yourself. Whether you're working in a supermarket, whether you're working as a tradie, working as an S&C coach, high performance, every level of the working class. Challenge yourself to be better every day. Like, don't be happy where you are. Just push the boundaries, see what happens. And when I say see what happens, you're going to learn about yourself. Because right now everyone's just comfortable. There's too many comfortable people. Just challenge yourself and don't get too caught up in everything that's going on in the world and stuff. Everything in front of you, it is what it is. It's nothing more than that. Stop trying to be too deep.
Love that. Thanks so much for that, Sunz. And there's a famous saying, because I use it is what it is very often. They say the person that goes it is what it is and has no worries for wider is a person that is dangerous, because they understand what it actually is and nothing more, right? Yep. But thanks for that so much, Sunz. And for everyone else, thanks for coming over to the Wolf of Queen Street podcast. As always, I hope there's something in the show that you could take away. I hope there's something, some insights, some knowledge that can benefit your life today or benefit someone else. You know, and I always say at the end of the show, I don't care about the like and subscribe and do all of that cheesy stuff. I care about you taking something away that makes a difference in your life or someone else, and telling them to come on over and saying, here is some insight you might need to hear today or tomorrow to make your life in a better path. But as always, thanks for coming over to the show and hope to see you again.